I'm Ray Rickman, Executive Director of Stages of Freedom. We do cultural programming. We pay for children to learn to swim. It's a fascinating job I have. Not paid as much as I used to be, but probably don't need it. You ever heard Americans say anything like that? Every morning I stop at the bridge, soon possibly to be named the Michael Van Leesten Bridge, the new bridge, the footbridge on the Providence River, just south of downtown. It is fabulous. This morning I was there all by myself, walking the one way. When I came back, there was a young couple holding hands, kind of cute. Just the three of us on that bridge, 6:35 I finished this morning. No photographers, no public works people, just people enjoying the bridge. Hope you'll go if you haven't been. Now for something heavy. When I was in my early 20s, 23, 24, twice I danced with Margaret, the Prime Minister of Canada's wife. It really was fabulous. Now son Jason Trudeau is in a little bit of trouble for doing brownface. That's what they called it this morning in an Associated Press article. And they have a picture of him mimicking somebody from India, and it doesn't look like him. He's a handsome man, and he's 29 in this photo, and he looks like a clown. Now, blackface was done from the 1850s going forward, and it really was big in America in the 1920s. This is white folks making fools out of themselves, racist activities, pretending to be black buffoons. Canadians take a little take on it by pretending to be Indian, I think, from India. And you think about the foolishness of this. And when he got caught, he kind of gave an apology. It was okay, one of those B-B apologies. And since I like the Prime Minister so much, I'm listening and I'm trying to be accepting. Then, of course, the next day they put out the second and the third image of him. Now, my guess is they have a fourth. This is a political attack on him. And they're dropping one shoe at a time to harm him. And he didn't have enough sense to say, I did this 4, 5, 6 times. You know he did, because this is an event at his private, I'm sure, all-white school. And he was very good. Ever met anybody with full personality, charming, nice, interesting, but probably a little bit of an actor. And so the school got him to do it. I want you to think about this. This is a school-wide event. He is the clown, racist clown, and he's good at it, and they're all in on it. The whole school is in on it, and then they take it and they make it official by sticking it in the school newsletter. So this racism is thorough, it's deep, it's annual, and he's the official face cheerleader. He's a teacher there at that time. This is the nature of these Western societies in their practice of racism. We find someone and we point at them, and Jason Trudeau is a racist, along with the hundreds of other people in that school. Now, when I say this stuff, people recoil, because calling someone a racist is heavy stuff. But in 2001, when you're doing this, you know it's wrong, you know it's offensive, you know it's character demeaning, and the school got him to do it. Jason Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, substantially decent Prime Minister, decent human being, who has put 50% women in his cabinet, I believe have 4 people of color in his cabinet, needs to do something more than what I'm calling a B-minus apology. Those are a bunch of words after causing pain and hurt. I've been a fan of his for years. I'm hurt. Is it the biggest racist sin of the year? Absolutely not. Is it racism extraordinaire because it involves hundreds of people, because it's in our face, because it's demeaning of every person of color in America and Canada and Europe and Asia? This is a worldwide discussion on Jason Trudeau being a racist at 29 years old. Now, I didn't say doing something racist. I said being a racist, because when you put that stuff out in public, you're poisoning people's minds. And there are kids in that school who think it's okay. And Mr. Trudeau, our favorite teacher, thinks it's okay. So is it okay? And does this thinking last for a lifetime when you're head of hiring at a construction company? I'm frightened it does. Mr. Trudeau needs to apologize again, clearly, with a few more words than he uttered the other day. And he needs to say how wrong this was. He needs to tell us whether he did it 4 times or 24. He needs to tell us if he did it earlier in life, if he did it later in life. He needs to tell us that he's going to take 10% of his wealth and spend it on anti-racism programs. He needs to tell us that for the rest of his life, he will do an audit of himself and his policies and his activities. That the government of Canada will hire a diversity auditor. And every time they do something, they will say, have we been inclusive? Have we been fair? Have we reached out? Is this non-discriminatory? Can people read things into this policy or act that aren't meant? And if so, should we say in advance? You change racist behavior and racist government policies by affirmatively pushing against it, Mr. Trudeau. About 44 years ago, I danced with Margaret Trudeau at the Grand Hotel in Toronto twice. She was there with a woman friend, and I got all my gumption and nerve, and I walked up and I said, I called her Madam Prime Minister. She loved it. She'd never been called that before. I said, can we dance? And I believe that it was a Dionne Warwick song, and respectfully, I danced with your mother, Mr. Prime Minister. And she was one of the coolest, most outreaching people in the world. She'd be ashamed if she knew that, 35 years later, you're off in Western Canada doing racist things. Words are cheap. Why don't you now find a serious way to apologize in the next day or two before the election? And if you should lose the election, and I hope you don't, if you should lose the election, keep your promise anyway. Something substantial. This is your mother's dance partner, Ray Rickman, in Rhode Island, in America, a nation that helped create the kind of racist activity that you were involved in. God bless you and take care of you, whether you win the election or not. And might you do something more than all the other people who've done racist things and then say, oops, I wasn't thinking, I'm sorry. Now, you were a little better than them. You didn't say I wasn't thinking. You just said you're sorry.